Can I try?
Okay, we're recording. Yes.
Can I try to record from my computer?
I don't think it's going to allow you.
You could do it if you have an app on your computer. It basically records your screen. So, but I have it, it's recording now. And when it's done, I'll post it to our Facebook group and I'll put a link to, this does create it. I can make a YouTube, right? Delphin?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have an account. We don't have
Right.
anything in it, but we have an account.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was just asking. I was just asking because I see the record button, and there were in other Zoom that I tried to record, and they say just press it, and we're gonna allow you. And then I press it, and they said that they allow me, but it didn't. So that's what I was trying to do.
Right. The way
Yeah,
it
normally
works,
they don't allow anybody but the host to record.
right. The host, because we just did a Zoom
Oh,
meeting for Nature First, and the host was Nature First, even though the four of us that were in the meeting were not connected with that account. So none of us could record it.
oh
Because-
wow.
Yeah, so
So there's no way.
no, I'm recording it.
No,
So
I mean there's no way as a listener that you can record.
yeah, you could if you could record your screen. You'd have to find an app somehow to record your
Okay.
own screen.
Okay.
You know, it's best. It's going to be on Facebook, and actually, we can upload it as a hidden video for YouTube also.
Well, that's what I'd like to do, and then put the link on our website.
You know, we can do that.
Okay.
Well, we'll get it out there so everybody can see
Yeah.
it. Okay. So let's see, what do I do next? This is I'm not real familiar with the Zoom, so
Isn't it amazing that when you're doing the meeting and you got so much stuff to deal with, it's
oh, share screen, right?
yeah, share screen.
Let me make sure I'm where I want to be here.
Well,
Well,
there's a lot of people when they do this. There's somebody managing everything, so you can concentrate on what you're doing because it's complicated.
It is complicated. Good Lord.
There's a lot of it's not complicated. There's so many little things you need to keep a track of, and the chats and everything else.
Right.
You know.
All right, so I'm going to share screen. And let's see where I want to go. Okay.
I lost.
We got everybody? You can see that?
Yeah, boy, I am dangerous. Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
I lost my hard drive that I had in my hand.
Okay. So these are the images that I took a couple weeks ago when we were all doing their sunset. Well, how do I get this down? Okay. What was that?
My Apple computer turning on.
Oh, okay. All right. So I just wanted to go into a little bit. Here I have this little write-up. Can you guys see that too, or just my sunset?
Yes.
Can you see my little Word document?
No.
Okay. Good.
No.
All right. So I'm going to start a little bit on how to shoot it. I don't want to get into it too deeply, but focus stacking. You know, we all want nice, sharp images, right? It's, you know, sometimes difficult to get tack sharp images from front to back, especially when you got a lot of depth. Like in this scene here, we have, you know, this is a long roadway. This was out on Mahogany Hammock. Those of you that were with me, you know where it was. This was pretty much the whole length of the road that you can see compressed. So it is a very deep image from where I was standing to the back where the sun set. To do focus stacking effectively, you need to get a sharp image, you need to either use a very narrow aperture, like, you know, f14, 16, 22 and on up, or you can focus stack. You know, the narrow apertures, they can only do so much as far as getting it sharp, because they're all limited, and especially you have limits to how I want to say this, focal length, your focal length. So depending on how wide you are, this is not a wide angle shot. This is a very zoomed in shot. This was shot at 380 millimeters. Now, if you're shooting with a 24mm lens, things will be a little bit different. So let's see here, where am I? If you have, and also if you have items that are very close to your lens, even with a wide angle lens, you may need to focus stack because generally you want things sharp through front and back. Now, if you don't have to. That's all up to you. But if you do want sharp from front to back, focus stacking a lot of times is the way to go. Any questions about why you would want to focus stack? No? Okay, good.
No. Basically to get things that are near and far in focus.
Right.
Or if you're doing macro photography like a flower and you want the whole thing in focus, you're
Right.
gonna have to focus stack.
Yeah, to do something like that for general landscape, a lot of times now if you're with a wide angle lens and you do a really narrow aperture, if you're at f16, you can get away with it. You don't always have to focus stack. Like anything that you ever do in photography, there is no hard rule. Yes, you have to do it only here, but it depends on your image and depends on your camera and depends on your lens. So we're just going to focus on, not focus, I should stop using that word focus. We're going to concentrate on an image like this. So to take the focus stack, you have to determine how many images you'll need. Like I said before, if you have a wide angle lens, you probably don't need to take so many because wide angle lends itself to a deeper depth of field. You can get a clearer or more sharp image deeper with a wide angle lens than you can with a long lens like this one was. So generally, if you have like a wide angle lens, you could probably get away with 2 or 3 shots and you can get everything in focus. Like I said earlier, I am going to show you what not to do because when I took this, I was thinking wide angle lens and I had a 150 to 600 lens on my camera. And I forgot because I was so excited about this big sun and where it was going to land. And I didn't think, hello, you are using a long lens. Do not make that mistake. So if you have a really long lens like I did here, you would want to take a lot more shots than you would think. And you know what? To take more shots, even if you have a wide angle lens, it isn't going to hurt anything. The more information you have, the better equipped you can be to create these and when you get home, because now there's no way I can go back and recapture this. So what I want to do, okay, so I'm going to show you. Can you see my mouse? Anybody?
Yes, we can.
Okay. All right. So you can see where I'm circling here. So when you take a focus stack, I'm just going to shrink this film strip. What I should have done, what I did do was right here. You can see where I'm circling. This is where I focused. I thought I'm going to focus about 1/3 of the way in, which this is about 1/3, and don't pay attention to that lens for that. That's one of my ugly spots that I didn't see. But right here is about 1/3 of the way in, I assume, because if you look, it's about 1/3 of the way into the image. And then my other shot was going to be to focus on the trees in the background. So I was thinking 2 image shot, which was wrong. You can see here, whoops, I'm at 200%. These are relatively in focus. This is where I focused. Now, if I go down to the bottom of the image, you can see this is not in focus. And obviously back here is not in focus. And this is why you'd want to focus stack. And unfortunately, what I should have done was focused here, 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 and taken like 6 or 7 images, and then slowly made the focus point wider as I went down. But since I didn't do that, this is a warning to you all. If you have a long lens, check each shot to make sure that the areas you want in focus are actually in focus. Okay. So to process these, I have, like I said, I have this. This is pretty much the same, just a little bit different sunspot. And here's one now I was trying to expose for the sun, because I just figured this is all I need, because this is in focus. And then back here, you can see that, well, the trees aren't really that great. I didn't do a great job on this. But then we have the sun going down and down and down and down. So how to process these? I'm going to use this image because this is the one that I use to focus. This is pretty much the same. And then here I was shooting for the sun to get the placement of the sun. This is actually my finished image here. This is my TIFF from Photoshop from when I originally processed it. So you can see this is where I wanted the sun to be. So what to do? I'm going to reset it. This is the original out of the camera. There are no adjustments done. Hey, Delphin, do I know if people are coming in?
Do you what?
How do I know if there are more people joining?
Just look at the chat is normally what I look at to see how
Okay.
many are in.
Okay.
There's a participant. Right now you got 7. There was 8 before, so either somebody dropped or
Okay, that's fine.
there was a delay.
That's fine. It doesn't matter. I want to get this out of it. Okay. Okay, so this is how it looked out of camera. I generally set my white balance to daylight, and I know I should pay more attention to that out in the field, but I figure that is a pretty good baseline to whatever it is I'm shooting, because you can essentially change things in post-processing. You can change your white balance. It does, however, affect the blinkies, if you will, on the back of your camera. So if you're really concerned about that, you can for sure get that correct in camera. It's always good to get things as close as possible in camera when you're shooting. But when I took this, my whole area of concentration was on the road. I wanted that glow on the street, on the blacktop here, because I thought that really looked really cool. And I knew once that sun up here got lower, the angle of the sunlight would get lower and it wouldn't be illuminating the roadway like it does now. So I wanted to get the road while the sun was up. Okay, so obviously this white balance is not good. You can a lot of times go to auto, and that did a really good job. However, it still looks a little bit too green for my taste. So you can always go to the sliders here. Obviously, you go way down, you get real green. Up here, you get real purpley. You want to do just a little bit in the middle. What I do to slide these incrementally, if that's a word, I don't even know if that's a word. I click on this little dropper thing, this little slider. I just click on it once, and then I use my mouse wheel to rotate it up. It goes up by 5 points. And so it's not so clunky. So I'm looking here, and I'm looking at the roadway in addition to the sky, because the sky is going to be replaced eventually, but this is a good way. Now I'm in between this and this. So it's pretty close to what the auto was. I'm going to leave it at 11. And just for giggles here, I'm going to play with this and see what that looks like. Bring the temperature down. That's way too cool. So that was fine the way it was. Also, now if you're going to try to do white balance, you can, this over here in the panel, this little eyedropper, you can click on that. And you can see that I'm moving the eyedropper around in my scene. I go up here, you can see inside the little grid what it's looking at. And you want to pick a neutral area, which like something gray or something totally white. The only thing in this image that would be semi-gray or black is this blacktop here. So I'm going to choose something that's dark and see what that looks like. And that pretty much took us to where our auto was. If you look here, it's pretty close. So I'm just going to put this back where it was, cool this off a little bit. Okay. This is where I like it. We got nice looking blacktop. It doesn't have a bad color cast, except over here, of course, where we have sun flare. Okay. Now here you can, I'm gonna do is lighten this shadows a little bit. So I'm gonna go down to the middle of this panel. I'm just gonna slide my shadows up a little bit. You can go all the way up, but that looks, ooh, bad. A lot of these sliders, you can do a lot of things. You can go all the way down on your highlights, go all the way up in your shadows, lower your whites, up your whites. This is the beauty of Lightroom. You know, if you don't like it, you can always bring it back to 0. You can double click. I don't know if you know this, double click on this little picker thing and it'll go back to the center. If you ever you can't get it exactly. So I'm just going to raise the shadows a little bit. I'm going to put a little bit of texture in here because I like it. A little bit of clarity, not too much. I don't want to make any, I guess it gives you some artifacts. We don't want artifacts. Now the dehaze is very interesting. When I first started with Lightroom, I used it because it did some really, really cool things to my eye. Now I would be like, ew, that was awful. But you can go all the way up and go, oh my God, look at that, how dramatic that is. Yeah, you don't want to do that. But if you go backwards on it, it actually lightens the image and it gives it a little bit more fuzziness. And I know in this, we're trying to get a sharp image, but sometimes you want a little bit, maybe a little bit of glow. So you can go backwards on the dehaze and it'll give you just a little bit. You can play with that and your exposure slider. You know, if you don't want it so bright, but you do want that little bit of fuzziness, you just drop that down a little bit. I'm not going to touch the vibrance, none of this stuff. I'm just going to leave it because I just want to do this basic. You can do your processing however you like. If there's questions as to how to do this, we can address that in another meeting, but I want to just get the focus stacking out. Calibration I use a lot. You have to be very careful because it's very powerful. I mean, if you go to the slide, woof, that's not so bad. Watch when I hit the reds though. Or the greens and the blues together. It looks like a rainbow. So, but I do use this. And I know a lot of people's probably their calibrations at the bottom of this panel. I moved it to the right underneath the basic because I do use it so much. And I also use the color picker where you can get, you know, target certain colors, but I won't do that today. Lens correction. So you do want to check your remove chromatic aberration and enable profile corrections. I don't know how, but this lens is built in. And I do use the tone curve. At first I didn't. I've been watching a lot of people on YouTube and some of the old school guys, they like to use the tone curve. And instead of moving the actual curve, they go down here in the sliders. If you play around with this, you can target the, you know, certain colors. But I like to use this one here on the left, and then you can use the sliders. So I can make that. I'll bring it down. I can up the shadows this way, even though I just did it in there, so I won't move that this time. Color grading, to be honest, it scares me, so I try to leave it alone. I know that's something else I need to work on. But the detail, this is where we get sharpening. And there are a million different ways to do this. I know a lot of people leave it as is because it's like a default. I watched one guy who said, crank your sharpening all the way, but lower all of the adjustments to 0. He says that gets you it basically gets rid of any part of the sharp, the radius and the detail, but it does sharpen the parts that need it. So this is what I've been doing lately. You can leave it as a default, that's fine. But when I sharpen like that, I always bring up my noise reduction to about 20 and then lower that detail just to counterbalance a little bit. But like I said, you can do whatever you like. The color I do like, because in here, I don't see any, but I'm sure there are some, they call hot pixels. Basically little colored pixels that you might see. You'll see it a lot in night shots, but there might be some here in the blacktop. if you ever look when you do like night photography, oh, someone chatted. Are you in Lightroom or Photoshop? I am in Lightroom right now, Zaida. I don't generally use the camera raw in Photoshop. Zaida asked if I was in Lightroom or Photoshop. So this is Lightroom. But you can do the same thing in Photoshop's camera raw. If you don't use Lightroom, you only use Photoshop and you open an image directly from your files, it'll go into camera raw, which has basically the same tools that you do have in Lightroom. It's just a little, just slightly different interface and how you use it, but the same tools are there. So the color, I do like to put that at about 50 because I want to get rid of any weird colors that are in there. There's 50. Just in case there are, you know, some greens or some magenta hot pixels in here. I wish I could get rid of these, but that every time I look at this, I cringe because I didn't notice it while I was taking the image. Okay, got another chat. Yeah, Jason is on. Hi, Jason. Looks a little different, but all the stuff is same in the Photoshop raw. Now I'm going to be critiqued because Jason knows more than I do. Okay, we're at transform. I very rarely use this because I just don't. Only what, you know, occasionally I will if I'm taking pictures of trees really close up with like a wide angle lens, and sometimes your trees will diverge. If you're pointing at a different angle than straight on, your trees will start to angle, and then you can use it. But all right. Hi, Tomas. Sorry, oh, we missed you earlier. I did hit record for those joining us later. If you want to watch this, we didn't record the chat, but we did start recording when I started with the instruction part. And the effects, I do sometimes vignette with this, but generally I'll use the, oh God, the radial tool either here or if I'm in Photoshop, I'll actually paint using a paintbrush and basically like dodge or burn. Actually, it's called burning. And I'll just paint the top or the bottom wherever I want to darken the corners. But if I'm in a quick hurry, you know, hell yeah, let's do that. Ooh, look at that. Ooh, pretty. And we can go over that in another episode to show, because there's a lot of things you can do here. If you're just using Lightroom, and you can get away with just using Lightroom for years, that's all I used. Okay, so that's pretty much the Lightroom, what I'm going to do. All I did was tweak the white balance, up the shadows a little bit, just so I can see. Maybe I'll go up a little bit more in the shadows. So what I want to do, and what you want to do, once you get the one image, if you have multiple images in your focus stack, you want to just work on one image, get it to where you want it, get your white balance correct, get your exposure, you know, up your shadows and reduce your highlights, or get whatever you want so it looks the way you want it. And then you're going to sync it to all the rest of your images. So if you look down here in the bottom left, I'm circling it with my mouse. You can see that this left image is highlighted and the rest here are grayed out because we are looking at this image. So what you would do is you take your mouse and you just slide it over. We're not clicking at anything yet. And I'm going to hold it to my last image. But first I'm going to press Shift, the Shift key, and then click. And now you can see they all are highlighted. But this one on the left is just a little bit brighter. So that's going to show you which image is going to be synced with the rest of these images. So then you go over here to your bottom right, if you can see where my mouse is circling, and you just click sync. And for this, you want to click check all. Now, if there's an occasion that you're using and you don't want to move something to the other images, you know, you can pick whatever. Let's say you just got rid of something like maybe a spot removal, just a little blip off of this takes a lot of juice, shall we say, in Lightroom. It takes a lot of oh, how do I say it? It takes up a lot of battery, not battery life, but a lot of your computer's energy.
Processing power.
Thank you. I'm at a loss for words here. So if you can if you don't need to do your spot removal, you don't have to. Although it is an easy way to do it, it's going to slow you down. But that's just an option. You can just unclick if you don't want to keep the sharpening, or you don't want to keep the vignette, whatever it is. I prefer to check them all, but you don't have to. That's just an option. And then you click synchronize. And if you look at the bottom, you can see that is doing it to every, whatever I did to this, it did it to every image in my little film strip here. Now I'm going to go to this one. This is my edited image, and I do not want it. This looks awful. So I'm going to put this back because this was my finished image. This is not going to be included in the focus stack. Okay, so you can see this is our first image. It applied the same effects to this image. Now in these here, this was just for the sun and the background. And I know you can't see it because it's very dark, because all I wanted to do is expose properly for the sun, or as close as you can. It's really hard to not blow out your highlights with the sun. And that's okay if you do, because, you know, it is the sun and it is the brightest thing. You just want to do it as little as possible. Okay, so once you do that, I am going to go back and click on this first image and go back over here. You can see I am hovering over this last image. I'm going to click shift again to select all, or if you're going to select, I don't want to select them all though. If you ever do this, you can also do control or command if you're on a Mac, all, and it will select all the images. Now, like I said, this one here that I'm circling is my finished image. I do not want to include that. So if you select all and you want to deselect one, you just hit your control or command key and then click on it, and it will deselect just that one. So you can do that. So what we're going to do now that we've got all of our images with the same with the same effects applied to them, I generally just right click. So you hit the right click on your mouse, go up to here. We're going to do edit in and open as layers in Photoshop. So we are going to open these up in Photoshop. You just click on it, and depending on the speed of your computer, now it might be a little bit slower because I'm running this. I got a pretty hefty computer. This is where you take a sip of your coffee.
I'm about to say, I don't think your computer is struggling with this.
No, my computer doesn't struggle.
No, it does not.
Well, there are times it does. Oh, we got a chat. Can I repeat the last step on how to get them into Photoshop, Pilar? Okay, yeah, I can redo it. Pilar wanted to know how I got the crop thing selected here. Let me get that out of there. Okay, she wants to know how I imported these into Photoshop. I'm going to close my Photoshop. I don't want to save. So my Photoshop is not open at all. So what I do is I select one of the images, or I actually, you know, generally this would not be in there. This is my finished. It just happens to be there. I should just remove it. Okay, now it's gone. Okay, so every image in this film strip I want to import into Photoshop. So I selected the one. This is the film strip. You can either hit, if you're on a Mac, it's Command, or on a PC, it's Control A. You can do it that way, or you can just manually select, click on it with your mouse, hover over the last one, hit the Shift key, and you also selected them all. And then you right click, you can right click in the image, you can right click down in the film strip, right click, edit in, and you go over, whoops, edit in. And if you look at all these different selections, now if you have a single image, you can just use this, edit in Photoshop. If you use another application for whatever, you just click that. Smart objects, that is a whole other area that I'm not going to get into. Panoramas, HDR, this is if you don't want to use Lightroom. But we are going to use this bottom one, open as layers in Photoshop. So you just click on it, and it's going to take all those images. It's going to open up Photoshop for me, and it will open them up as a layer. And now I get to have another sip of coffee. And it takes some time. So if you have a slow computer, if I was working on my laptop, this would take about a half hour. And then you can see over here on the lower right where it's loading the layers, so you can watch the progression.
You're not sharing the screen for Photoshop.
I'm not?
No.
Oh. Oh, so you're just seeing the Lightroom. Oh.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Holy cow. How do we do that? No share. See, this is what, oh, thank you for telling me, because I didn't know this. Okay. Here we go. Now can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. Here's Photoshop. Okay, I thought it would, okay. So this does not move just because I changed screens. I see now. I'll know that for next time. Okay, so this is it. It put everything over here. If you look at the lower right, I'm circling it now with my mouse. It put all those images here into one file. You can see up here on the top left where I'm circling. This is one file, one Photoshop file, but it has all these layers. Now, if I would have opened this into Photoshop just regular, it would have opened, what do I have here? 6, 7, 8, 7 images. It would have opened up 7 separate tabs up here on top, which, because we did layers, it's all over here. So we're gonna, you can see now this little eyeball. I don't know if you're not familiar with Photoshop, this little eyeball thing, which it is an eyeball. If you turn it, if you click on it, it turns that layer off. So you can see what the layers underneath it look like. And I can keep unchecking and unclicking and unclicking. Boop, boop. Now there's nothing. Now there's a little trick. If you want to get them all real quick, you just slide. Just click the eyeball and slide it down as you're holding the button. Because there was, this is how I would use to stacking star trails and stuff. So when you're doing like 300 images, you don't want to have to click on every single one. And somebody did it on a YouTube channel. Like, how did you do that? And they're like, oh, you just click on it and slide down and just slide it up. Either way, it works either way. Just a little something to keep in your toolbox for another time. Okay. But this is just about stacking, focus stacking. We are not trying to make a tasteful image. We're not trying to make, I mean, I do eventually want to make this nice. And eventually there is a way to get rid of these. As you guys may or may not know, I'm a big fan of Adam Gibbs, and he did a video on how to get rid of lens flare. So that's an idea for another episode of PhotoFinish. Thank you. And I want everybody to thank Jason because he came up with that name. It was not me. I don't have that kind of an imagination. Okay, back to focus stacking. Oh, we got it. What was that? Was that my email? Oh, yeah. Oh, that was just my Instagram and email. Okay. To properly focus stack, now everything here, I should have said this when I was started, but when you take these, you don't move. Okay, now we got a chat. This is a great idea. Thanks, Jason. Jason said it's a great idea, and I'm doing great. I feel like a fish out of water. It's, you know, it's funny because you can know what you're doing, but when you have to explain it, you feel like an idiot. But anyway, hopefully you all are getting something out of this. What I should have said when I started, when you're taking focus stacks, you do not want to change the camera location. You don't want to move your camera. You do not want to move your focus, or not your focus, your, oh God, your focal length. You do, if you're at, like I was at 380 millimeters, you do not want to zoom in closer. You do not want to zoom out. You want to keep whatever you're shooting exactly as it is. The only thing you're going to change is your exposure, your shutter speed, if you want. You don't normally, if you're not shooting a sunset, you probably wouldn't have, you could just do it regular. Don't change any of your settings, just where your focus point is placed. And like I said, I focused here and then I focused the trees for the second shot. I should have focused more, but I didn't. But all that I would change on the camera is where I would place my focus for each image that I took, so that each image is basically in the same spot. So here you can see it, just a little bit of movement. That could be the focus breathing. It could be, whoops. It could be the fact that I touched my camera and it moved just a little bit. Because you can see now every single one of these is a little bit different than the one, just a little bit. And I'm gonna show you how to fix that. So we have the first one. You can see it's highlighted here. And just like we did in Lightroom, we're going to hover over this last one, press your shift key, and then click on it. So right now we have selected every single layer. Okay. Everybody with me yet? Once we have all the layers selected, we're going to go up to edit. And right around here in the middle, I'm not going to circle it because it'll keep moving. Where the blue bar is, I'm sorry, what? You want to repeat that? Okay, no, I guess not. Okay, so you go to edit, auto align layers. What this is going to do is search in the image for any of the details that are similar, which there should be a bunch, and they're going to put them together. So you have everything in one. This is going to take a little bit of time. So I click on it. I'm just going to leave everything auto. Yeah, you can click on these other things or not. I usually just leave them all empty. I really don't know what all this stuff does. I just leave it on auto and I let it go and then click OK. And you can see my little thing. They're aligning all the layers. And now you can see around the sides here where it did move the images. Yeah. Photoshop basically just moves the images so they're all in alignment. And now when I do this, if you look at the trees, like over here, if you look at those treetops, you can see that they're all in the same spot now. And I don't think we had any wind that day. But if we have wind, then you may want to concentrate on another area to make sure that they're all in alignment. So that's the first step in focus stacking. You just want to make sure they're all in alignment, even if you're in a controlled atmosphere, like you're in the house and you're doing one of those macro focus stacks. you still want to do it because you never know. One slight little bump or, you know, you breathe funny at it, it can move, especially if you're really zoomed in, but you always want to do that. Okay, the second step, you're going back up to the edit, top left here, click edit. And remember, these are all still selected. All of our layers are still selected. And we're going to go here, auto blend, because what Photoshop,
blend.
oh, I'm sorry, what? Data?
What?
You said blend? You have a question?
No.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, you go into auto blend layers. And what that's going to do, Photoshop is going to, and it's very smart, it's going to pick out the sharpest parts of the image, and it's only going to use that part of the image to come up with one final. So over here, these are sharp. Now in the lower layers, the background is sharp. So it's going to put them all. And this is amazing. When I first saw this, I said, you got to be kidding me. Photoshop can do amazing things. And once you learn how to do stuff like this, you're just like, wow. Anyway, so auto blend, I wish they'd call it auto focus stack because it's easier to find, but it's auto blend layers. Click on it. I'm going to click to stack the images because when I'm done, I want them one on top of the other. Seamless tones and colors. Yes, I want that. And content aware fill. Content aware fill, if you don't know, Photoshop will take the areas like down here at the bottom where you can see the dotted line and the black. That's because my image moved a little bit when it was trying to even them out. And what Photoshop will do, will take the pixels that surround it and fill these blank spots. It's just amazing. Yeah. So you want to click the content aware fill and you just click OK. And let Photoshop do its magic. It's pretty amazing. And this takes a little bit of time too. If you got a slow computer, you might want to go grab yourself another coffee. Now, don't look at the sun. Obviously, this image, look at the bottom here. This is what you want to concentrate on because this is, now you can see here over on the bottom right, it has all of our old layers, and Photoshop applied, it's called a layer mask, where the black, you've always heard this, black conceals and white reveals. So if you look over here where my mouse is, you can see here at this first image, the bottom is white and the top is more black because the bottom is the thing that's mostly in focus. So it's going to reveal that part of that layer and it's going to block out the part of the layer that's out of focus. And now you see here, the second image, the mid part here is more in focus, which is why the middle part is white and the top and bottom are blacked out. And the same with each image. Now, if you get further down, you can see that it pretty much blocked out all of it, but you have this sun. Now, the reason this looks like this is because I took multiple images at different times. The sun started off here, went down here and here. So it's going to, it can't be perfect. It doesn't put the sun. What I would normally do is I would focus stack, I would blend these by hand, which is a whole other course that's a little bit more in detail. When I prepared this, I probably should have chosen a different image, but I didn't. So this is pretty much it. You've got the one image here. I'm going to turn off all these bottom ones. Oh, let me leave them on. Let me leave them on. I'm going to turn off this one. Oh, where did it go? Oh, that's right. It's blocked them out, so you can't see. Are there any questions of what just happened here? I know this is kind of confusing. It confused me the first time. But this is it. Now you can see if I'm gonna do something that I wonder if the blend mode would be different. No. Here you can see it a little bit better. This is an awful image, but you can see now here, the trees are in focus, the road's in focus, all these trees on the side of the road are in focus. And that's essentially how you focus stack. When you're done, now if you want to finish editing this in, let's say, Lightroom, you can go for here, file, save. Now, if you're importing these directly from Lightroom, like I did, and you click save, Photoshop will automatically take this image and put it back into Lightroom. You look down here where it says saving, and when it's done,
Yes.
we'll go back to Lightroom and I'll show you this image, even though the sun looks really bad. Actually, you know, if you wanted to do some funky stuff with your sunsets, this would be like a really cool image to play with. So I'm going to switch screens and then I'm going to take you back. Let me put you back into Lightroom. Can you see my Lightroom? See all this blue? Anybody?
Yes, we can see your
Okay.
Lightroom.
Okay. So what this did, because of the way I have mine set up, it created a TIFF file where your normal photos are raw, RAW, or whatever your proprietary camera calls it. But it creates a TIFF. Some people can make it whatever, you can make it whatever you want. Some people use PSD files, which is a Photoshop file. I prefer TIFF, the same stuff. So this is it. This is what it looks like in Lightroom. So what I can do is, let's try this. Oh, we're really making this look bad. But I want you to be able to see what we did. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to turn this off. This is not what you want your image to look like, but you can see that the road, like I said here, the road is in focus. These trees are in focus. The reason this tree looks so fuzzy is because it used part of the image that the sun was really blowing up and it just kind of melted the whole thing. But you can see these trees here are in focus. These trees here are in focus. These little bushes are in focus. And if I had properly exposed everything, you would see that this would not look so bad. But that's how you focus stack. And you can continue to edit. We can make this, let's do it black and white. Let me see what you can do with this. I love it when I make a mistake and you're like, oh wow, that looks pretty cool. Let me see if I can recreate that later. Are there any questions? Did anybody want me to repeat some of the things that I did? I know.
So how do you remove all those double exposure suns and trees? I know that's not the part of the training, but I'm just curious.
Well, I'll show you what I did.
Okay.
If nobody else has any questions on what we did, whoops. Let me go back to Photoshop. Where are we? Okay, you see my Photoshop screen? What I would have
Yes.
done to eliminate this, I'm going to, I don't know if I can go backwards on this. I'm going to delete what I did.
Layer. Apply mask layer. So whoop. Before removing.
If you're watching, you can see what every layer is doing. I'm just deleting the masks. So I'm going to show you what I actually did to process this. I just wanted to show everybody how you would focus stack multiple images, but you don't have to pay attention to what I'm doing. This is how I'm just deleting these layer masks to come up with our original stack. This. Why did it do that? All right, you know what? Oop. My screen sharing stopped. Okay, hold on a second.
Okie dokie.
I'm still learning here. Let me
That's what happens with Zoom meetings at times.
yeah, let me remove this. Remove. Okay, so how I did this is I only picked images that I liked. Like I think this one I like better than, no, this is good. And as you saw in that processed image, I think I used this shot. So what I did was only import these two. So if you want to watch, I'm going to redo what I did. If you go, if that's pretty much the end of how you focus stack. If you want to see how I did this to try to come up with the image that looks, you know, decent, I'm going to get rid of these other ones. Because these are the only two images that I used in my own. I like this. I like the road. And I like where the sun is here. You can see this is where I wanted the sun to be in my final image. But like I said earlier, I wanted that glow on the street here. And that couldn't, I wouldn't be able to get that glow if the sun was just here. So I couldn't really get it in one shot, even if I didn't care if it was sharp or not. There was no way I could get that look. So I'm going to reset this. Bring my white balance where it was quick. And I want to up the shadows a little. Oh, look at that. Oh, right, this work. I'll have to do. Lower the highlights just a tad. And then here,
Oh,
I'm going to lower the highlights so I can kind of get rid of that awful glow and then up the blacks. Up the exposure. And you can see here. So now you can see a little bit more, and it works a little bit if you're trying to merge exposures and focus stacks. This is like I said, it was probably not a great example, but you got the techniques down. That's all that you really needed. So this you have to. It's kind of, I think they call it dual processing. So this is basically what I would have done. I would have brought it up to try to mimic the exposures as best I can. So at least you can see what's going on here. You can look at how sharp that is. God, I love that lens. Oh. Anyway.
Which lens is that one?
This was my 150 to 600, my big bazooka.
Ah, I gotcha.
But the procedure is the same. So I highlighted both of these. You can either hit Control or Command All, or click on, you know, either one. Right click, go up here to Edit in, whoops, and open as layers in Photoshop. So I click that, and now I'm going to share my Photoshop screen so you can see what it's doing. Whoops, where is it? New share. Photoshop. Come on. There you go. Up. Oh my gosh. Sorry, it wouldn't do it. Okay, hold on. This is crazy.
Hey, it's okay.
Ay, ay, ay. Okay, now you're seeing my Photoshop with 2 layers? I'm circling.
Yes, you are.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay,
I
so
am.
now, okay, at least you, well, if you are, everybody is. So I only have the 2 layers here. Turn that off, you can see that. And you can see that the camera is just a little bit different. So we are going to choose both Same way, we're going to highlight one, press the shift key and click the other. Go up to edit, auto align layers. Now you can use this procedure with 2 or you can use 100. I know there are some people who shoot macro with those little bugs or coins, or they get, you know, really detailed, and you've got to like really hone that in. But you can stack as many as you want this way. And a matter of fact, when you're doing like star trails, you would do this pretty much the same procedure. Now you can see around the edges here, it was not level or it was not even, which is fine, but the Photoshop put them together. Okay, now they're still both selected, both layers. We go up to edit, auto blend layers. And I'm going to leave it the way I had it. And okay. And let Photoshop do its magic. So you've got that. Now, this is the automatic way. You can see this image. Okay, which I could have done, but I don't like what it's doing here with the sky because it looks funky. I'm going to undo. Oh, it won't let me undo it. Shoot. Ah.
Can you try Control Z? Will that work?
Yeah, but I only have it to do one. I don't know. I'm going to delete. Hold on. Okay, here we go. This is another, if you, oh, someone chatted me. That was great. Oh, thanks, Pilar. Okay, if you ever can't get back, and this is something that people don't realize in Photoshop, there's a history tab. You can go up here. Oh, let me move this. You go to window up here. This will show you all the things you can put in your little screen. This is the window. You know, this is, you can make a character. Look, it can bring up the character box if you want it. I don't want that, but what I'm looking at over here on the top right is the history tab. So you got history right here. If you can't Control Z or Command Z, that usually undoes what you just did. You can always go to history and just do what I did. So we are at the same spot. I'm still going to auto align the layers. So I selected both layers, edit, auto align. Okay. But what I'm going to do is manually select the bottom and this image and the top in this image. And to do that is now we're getting into some pretty Photoshop-y techniques here. So what I'm going to do is put on, let's see, a layer. Now I always get confused here. I'm going to put on a layer mask. I'm going to invert it. So I want a black layer mask. What this does, if you're all still following me, white reveals and black conceals. We've always heard that, and it's ingrained in my brain. Does it mean anything? Half the time, no. I have to consciously think, what is this doing? So the black conceals. The black is concealing this layer here, this image that I'm circling with my mouse, where the little hand is pointing. Now, if this was white, this is revealing everything in this, okay? Now, this image here is being covered by this image here. It's on top. So whatever's on top is what's going to be showing. You can also, I'm getting into some other here. You can do the opacity and look what happens. You got partial views. You're lowering the opacity of the top layer, which is revealing the back layer. You can merge them that way if you wanted. Or you can do like what I'm going to show you. black mask, but I want this to be in this. I want, oh God, how do I do that? I want that road to be in this shot. So I am going to paint it in. So I'm going to use a paintbrush, brush tool. Because I like the sky. This is exactly the sky I like, but I don't like this road. So I have black, and over here is our color picker. I know this is getting into some detail, but we are picking white. We are on white. You can see the color is white. And so I'm not painting white onto this. I'm painting white onto the mask, which is going to color this black mask white at the bottom. Watch. Oh, somebody chatted to me.
And white reveals.
Yeah, how do you change the layer? Okay, how do you change the layer to black or white? Okay, here, I'm gonna remove this layer mask here. Let me show you. Delete. Okay, to do a layer mask is down here. Nobody calls it this but me. I call it the washing machine because it looks like a little washing machine with the window. I click, this is at the bottom. It's the little square with the circle in the middle. That is a layer mask. You can click on it once without touching any keys, and it'll put a white layer mask on it. If you want a shortcut and you want a black mask, you can hit, I believe it's the Alt or Option key, and then click it, and you got a black mask. I don't usually do that because it's, I can't think that far in advance. So if I just hit this, I create a layer mask, it's white, and I want it black, I just invert it. And the way to invert is to Control or Command I. So you hit the Control or Command button, and then the I button, and it changes it. And you can go back and forth.
Ah,
Control
wow.
I. Isn't that something? So that's how I do that. And over here, if you see where I'm circling, where this little black and white square is, there's a little arrow. This will change the black and white color because you can pick actual colors. Now, this is what you would do if you're painting. Maybe you're dodging and burning with paint. You can do that here. Oh, I got another question. Thank you, Zaida. And you can, why is it doing that? Okay, back and forth. If I had a white mask and I wanted to paint black, that's what I would do. But I want to paint white.
Yeah.
Up here is this is where it can get kind of complicated. But Delphin asked me how I did it, so I'm going to show you what I did. The opacity and flow. Now there are people that will go up to 100% opacity and bring the flow down. I don't know, jury's out. Most people, if you're just dodging and burning, you just want light, gradual changes, you would want to leave it at opacity of 1. It's just very, very low opacity, and it'll take you forever to color in all of this. Because I'm going to paint like hell with this white brush, and you can see it really isn't doing much. But if I up that opacity to about 40%, now look at it. Ooh, we're bringing that layer back. This is cool. Actually, I'm doing a better job here than I did in real life. I kind of like that blue cast of that blacktop. Oh.
I agree.
It's funny. I was talking to my boss the other day about this, and I said, God, I'm so nervous. He goes, if you want to really learn something, teach somebody else how to do it. Now this is pretty good. I don't know. Could color in, and I could make my brush small.
I like it.
Just gonna.
So you had a better picture than you thought.
Well, of course.
And that's kind of goes great for the next frame it.
What's that?
Leading lines.
Oh yeah, this is a leading line. Well, didn't I submit this for the sun?
I don't remember. But it's still good for leading lines.
But that's how I did it, because I knew, because I had the different colored, the different position of the sun. If I was doing it, if I wanted that sun in that spot when it was really high, that like that first image I had, then, and I just took, you know, boom, 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 within, you know, seconds of each other, focus stacked on the road, this would be a whole different, you wouldn't need to do what I just did here. Let me see if I can, I'm gonna try to, oh, look at that. I'll get rid of these. Now I'm painting, I'm undoing what I just did with that color. No, I got rid of the, look at that. Holy cow. See, you guys are teaching me something by letting me do this to you. I got rid of the sun flare. That's pretty much it. Oh, it's good enough. I wonder if I can get rid of it here.
Oh,
Let me see.
love the flare.
I can't get rid of that. That's fine. So that's it. Any other questions? Want me to try something else?
You can go now.
Jeez, I didn't know I could do all this. I wonder what this is doing. No. Oop, no, we don't want to do that. Okay, so that's pretty much it. And then God, I kind of like this. Like how, let me see if I can paint some more yellow in here. What I'm doing is I'm not painting any color on this road. I am painting out a mask. I am just making that black mask over here white, or a different shade of gray than black. And what that's doing is bringing out all the things that are in this top image. So if I want to make this road more like that first image with all the yellow in it, I just keep painting on it. So it's a little bit whiter. Almost, how do I do that? Nope. Ooh, no, 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 no. What did I just do? Cancel. Oh, this will show you. This is, I don't know. Do that. What did I just do? Oh God, I hope I'm not confusing everybody. Oh, I got rid of the flares just by painting. Here, I'll show you. Let me see if I can undo what I just did. Uh-oh. Okay.
Victory.
Oh shit. Oops. Sorry. I don't know what I just did. No, that's the top. Well, we'll redo it. We'll have to, this is what I did. We're in the white brush. Make it bigger. I painted this in to bring out that bottom layer. And because if you remember in this first image, the sun flare was only in that. It was not in the second one because the sun wasn't shining in it. So if I completely wipe this, bring this opacity up for. Now I'm basically bringing that top image in here, which also includes the sun flare, because the bottom layer didn't have the sun flare. You can see there's no sun flare here at the bottom. Okay.
Yeah.
So what I want to do is put that black. I want to block that out of this top image. So I'm just going to paint it back to black and bring, well, you would want to do it at a lower opacity than I just did. Let me lower my opacity to about 30% again. And then that's up here, if y'all don't remember. So just gradually paint that out. And it, you know, it's not perfect, but it's not garish. It's not blowing you in the face going, yeah, but you know, if I was trying to make, you know, what do you call it? A portfolio image. This is not it. It's not in sharp focus. It's not perfect. I was excited. I was with y'all and we were having a good time, and And that's all that mattered. I didn't care. I knew this was going to happen. I knew that the sun would do this. And I think it'll still do it. I don't know if anybody wants to go out in this cold, but if it's clear, you can probably still get an image like this. The sun might be over here now when it's setting instead of here, but you can still probably get that image. It would be worth, trying if you wanted to play with it, if you like it. If not, Any other questions? No? So what I would do now, because I kind of like this, I would save it, file, save. Bring this back. When this is done, you can see here in the lower left where I'm saving 99. Okay, now that blue bar is gone, that means it is saved, and I can file, close. So that image is closed. I am going to reshare my Lightroom and show you what that is. Okay, so now you can see this created a TIFF and put it back into my Lightroom. This was our top image. This was our bottom image. And this is our middle. This is our merged image. So you got focus here and you got focus in the back. And that's much better than the one I did before. So I can, you can still play with it if you want to edit some more. If you really want to make it HDR, hell, pull that up, pull that down. It's not normal, but you can do that. Yeah, but you're bringing in a lot of noise that way too. I might bring down the clip. I want to make it a little bit more glowy. I can do that. Bring up the texture a little bit. Maybe put the dehaze instead of the clarity on that. Make some dehaze. Lower the exposure. I don't like that. Too much dehaze. But you can see, play with it. That's the cool thing about these images. Once you have, if you're working on your raw image, if it's raw and you bring it into Lightroom, you're not changing it. You can always go back. I've got images that I took years ago that I've made like 5 different copies. If I want to do this again, I want to keep this. But, if I want to try something different, I can select these 2, put it back into Photoshop, try something else, and then create another one. You just keep creating. Or let's say I wanted to turn it black and white. So I just created a virtual copy. You right click on the image, create virtual copy. That just makes a second copy of this. You can see the little corner flipped up here. And I can turn it black and white if I want. Or turn it back to color. I can do a different edit. I can do a different process on it if I want. So there's so much you can do. This processing is, I started learning, our beloved Jason showed us Lightroom in a meeting when I first started, and I was like, oh my God, look what it just did. I couldn't believe what Lightroom did to images. It took a pretty much dark image like this, and he took the exposure side and went like that. I went, oh my God, look at that. So about a month later, I ordered my own Lightroom, and then of course it came with Photoshop, but I wouldn't touch Photoshop because that totally confused me. I've been through so many tutorials. Nick Page was my #1 go-to for tutorials on how to use Photoshop, and taught me how to use layers, and I had to watch it a couple times. If you do get tutorials and you do learn, I wouldn't recommend getting his right now because they're old. I mean, they're useful, but they don't show you the newer, because Photoshop has changed quite a bit since he made his tutorials. But I had to watch him a couple times because I couldn't remember everything, and I obviously didn't practice it right after I watched it, which is pretty important to do. If you're going to learn something, practice it right away. So there's my final image. I think we're done. What time is it? Oh, it's 11:30. Well, it took a little longer than I thought.
Looks good.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Yeah, thank you, Barb.
Did we lose anybody?
Nope.
I don't think so.
How do I turn off stop share? Okay,
Remember, you're still recording, so whenever
I
you
know.
want to stop, remember
Still
to stop.
recording. Okay, we'll stop recording now. Unless anybody has any questions that you want me to hit on.
Just your original master image, the one that you shared before this class about this photo,
Right.
it didn't have the flare under the sun. Do you remember how you did it?
I don't remember how I processed it. I think you know, when I got home that night, it was late and I was tired and I just did a really quick bad edit. And I tried, what I normally try to do is desaturate. When I get a lens flare, I'll try to desaturate it and lighten it to try to match it. It's, you got to play with it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Okay.
But maybe we can go over that. Maybe I'll learn that technique that Adam Gibbs did. And he learned it from Alex Nail. I don't know if anybody ever heard of that guy. He's from the UK, but he's pretty good. Oh, okay. Thanks, Zaida. Zaida wrote, I'm trying to set up my iPad so I can do the Zoom link there and have my actual. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's good, Zaida. This is recorded. Like I said, you can go back and rewatch it. You can pause it if you get to a spot you want to concentrate on. You can pause it and keep rewinding it as many times as you want to listen to my voice.
We'll be doing that.
Okay, good. Well, I'm glad it was helpful. I'm going to stop recording. So if you want to talk about each other, we can, and nobody knows about it.
But for example, when you were trying to get rid of that extra misalignment, why didn't you just crop it in just a tiny little bit?
I could do that. That's definitely, I think that's what I did in my first image that I did. I brought it back into Lightroom and just I cropped the edges. You can do that. That's definitely something you can do. You can do so many different things if you want. You could apply a whole other crop on it if you don't like that crop. If you want to get rid of some of those.
Yes, I no longer use Lightroom. I go directly from the camera download into into Camera Raw.
Right,
And
right.
then directly into Photoshop when I have all the corrections made.
Okay.
So I basically edit everything in Photoshop.
Right, right.
But,
And there's a lot of people
going
that do.
from the camera card to Camera Raw.
Right,
And I thought that you were doing the same, but into Lightroom.
right.
My catalogs in Lightroom since were a total disaster. Because
I understand that. Yes, I had
when
this.
I started it, I knew nothing.
Yeah.
And I started making things without knowing where they ended up, so I
Right.
could never find them. So
I
at one
had
point
the
I
same, yeah.
decided never Lightroom again.
I feel you, Zaida. I did the same, and it took me a long time to figure out how to fix it. I finally did fix it, but yeah, it's
I finally decided to find a better way to edit because I could not longer. I still, to this point, I cannot deal with Lightroom. I mean, all my years of